A most unusual exhibition is about to open in Albury, a bit further down the road from Canberra than usual, but well worth the trip. In 2008, Australian freelance photojournalist Nigel Brennan travelled to Somalia to document and report on the state of the nation, which was in the grip of a food crisis, a drought and civil war. But then he was kidnapped and he became the story. In captivity for 462 days, he was held for ransom for $1.5 million US. In an effort to put that experience behind him and make the story once again about Somalia, this exhibition features his photos along with replicas and memorabilia telling the story of his captivity and freedom. Our own cameraman, Greg Nelson, drove to Albury and back to capture the story, which he's also written, edited and produced.
Somalia was a big sort of risk, but from my perspective it was go there or try and go into somewhere like Afghanistan or Iraq, where you already had hundreds if not thousands of journalists covering that story, and no one seemed to be sort of shining a light into Somalia apart from the local journos.
Nigel Brennan and his colleague Amanda Linthout set out to document the result of 20 years of drought, famine and civil war. Their attempt to cover the humanitarian crisis in Somalia led them on an ill-fated journey outside of Mogadishu. Isolated from their security guards, the pair were ambushed by local militia and taken hostage. For the next 462 days, Nigel and Amanda were held to ransom for $3 million US. Nigel's family in particular was thrust into a dark world of kidnapping, negotiation, government bureaucracy and international law. Forced to learn quickly, it was their tireless effort that ultimately freed both Nigel and Amanda.
At the end of the day, I knew my family were never going to give up on me. And there were times during the ordeal when the kidnappers used to say, you know, your family doesn't love you, they're not giving you money and they're not giving us money for you. And, you know, times I felt like headbutting them and saying, you have no idea who my family are and what they're made of.
The story of Nigel's kidnap and the struggle to free him have been well told in the book The Price of Life, and now an exhibition of the same name is opening in Albury. It expands on the story of the Brennans' ordeal, but puts the focus back on the plight of Somalia. It was a project that began during Nigel's time in captivity. Curator Bianca Asimovic was approached by Nigel's father to help organise a fundraising auction.
And so he asked if I was able to pull together some volunteers to help install a small auction, and I was more than happy to help. It was such a great cause. My
father was speaking with Bianca, who was then at Bundaberg Gallery, about possibly doing an exhibition of my works if I didn't come home. And then when I did come home, I had a meeting with Bianca shortly after, probably about 2 months after, and we started developing the idea.
That's sort of where it started. It was going to be something really quick that we could just fit into a space that we had, and then once Nigel started to process and really think about what he wanted to tell and how we could tell it, it developed into this much bigger exhibition that's become The Price of Life.
The thematic exhibition features Nigel's work before the kidnapping, multimedia exhibits and a dramatic recreation of the hostage space. Mundane personal items, like a toothbrush, take on an emotional significance as part of a care package from home. Undelivered family letters and personal belongings, such as the shoes he wore, offer an insight into the hostage experience. But it's a copy of the Quran that holds particular significance.
Probably my Quran is, in all of this exhibition, is the one thing that I really cherish. Having to convert, you know, under, I guess, pressure to convert to a religion, and I'm not a religious person, but that in some respects was a real saviour.
The Quran offered practical benefits as well as spiritual comfort.
They passed it back and forth a week at a time, and they used it as a method of survival, to tell each other things and to keep their spirits and their hopes up.
On this page you can see on the and with, see how the with is slightly heavier underlined?
Yeah.
We would do that with certain words so that we could create a sentence.
But Nigel and Bianca have also crafted a bigger narrative they hope will reveal both some of the dangers faced by reporters in conflict zones and the plight of refugees.
People will say that I was an idiot and shouldn't have been there. Other people say, that's what journalists have got to do to inform us. For me, it's about people coming and having a look at this in not only countries like Somalia, but countries where there is conflict, for us as Australians to show a bit more empathy and support to people that are refugees in our country.
Despite the experience at the hands of his captors, Nigel Brennan bears no animosity towards the people of Somalia. He's determined to tell their story above his own.
I had a meeting very early on with the Brisbane Somali community and was terrified to walk into a room with 150 Somalians to start off with, but I don't know, just the love that was in that room and people that came up and hugged me and apologised for what their countrymen had done.
The people in Somalia are such lovely people, and the exhibition isn't meant to put a negative spin on them at all. It's really meant to show how kind-hearted they are, and I've been able to witness and see them engage with Nigel, and it's so lovely. He speaks Somali back to them and they totally embrace him as well.
But for Nigel, the exhibition is not really about himself. It's about his family's ordeal and their love and support.
They knew it was something that I wanted to do in my life. It was a dream that I had, and they said, good on you for going and trying to highlight people that are less fortunate. You sort of got bitten, and if you do it again, then make sure you've got insurance.
It's also a chance to finish the story he went to Somalia to tell and to move on from his ordeal.
This is sort of a conclusion for me, to finally sort of stand here today and see my images up on the walls is really nice, especially the Somalian shots. I'm sort of looking at moving sort of forward and not wanting it to define my life as much as it has for the last 3 years. We're so incredibly judgmental and insular about us. We don't sort of look outside of our own little units and have an understanding of what other people have gone through. So if people can come through the exhibition and take that away, then I'd be incredibly happy.
And Greg Nelson put that story together.